Hi, I'm Bernard with shehairusa. Today we're going to talk about getting a little creative with color. I don't even want to pretend we're going to cover every single creative thing you can do with color. And I am talking about with hair extensions, because many of you are colorists and do a lot of different creative things with color. It's pretty much endless with extensions also. But some of you are not being creative at all with extensions. So I just want to give you a little motivation to get started, show you some of the pieces you can put together, and we start with cutting some of the bonds smaller. Even then, that's not a definite thing that you have to do. You can take a whole bond and put two whole bonds together and get two different colors and completely whole bonds, but it might be a little bulky on the head. So I'd recommend almost always going with a half a bond, with another half a bond, half with a third, half with a fourth. And I've got a few different samplings here. So I think I'll just go ahead and say this would be the start of my inspiration. You can purchase bonds that are already two different colors, brown and blonde, brown and red, two blondes together. We have quite a mix of different colors together, and of course, you know, we have the ombre colors. But right now we're going to talk about putting two different colors together. If I were to take, and I did already take, a half of a darker brown and a third of a lighter brownish blonde together just a few seconds ago, and I'll show you how I did that. Also, this is kind of interesting, I took a whole yellow bond and put it with a half of a red. Now keep in mind that we'll heat that up in a few minutes and we'll fold it in and show how that ends up mixing together on the client's head or the mannequin head, as we'll do in a second. But if I were to take just one small, and you know, I don't remember if it's a third or a fourth, but it's so tiny, I would say it's probably 1/4 of a bond, and just take maybe even a whole brown piece here. And what I'll do is kind of just putting them together temporarily, so there's no exact technique to this. Try to hold them where they're both even at the top. You're going to heat the two up just long enough that you can heat them and make them hold together, and then give them a quick press. And it's just kind of to hold them together so that you can put them in place when you're putting them on the person's head. And so as you can see, that's just going to add a little bit of blonde to a brown piece. But don't hesitate to maybe take a half and another full half of a piece, and essentially what you'll be doing is making a blended piece that already exists here. So what we're going to do is take this half darker brown and half lighter brown or dark blonde, heat them up just a little bit, press them together. Doesn't matter how nice and neat everything is up at this part, because you're going to be reheating it and putting it in a person's head in just a few minutes, or maybe the next day. Maybe you do all this prep in the morning of, a day before, a week before. Prep all the hair in the color that you want, because maybe we don't make the brown blonde mix that you want to customize for your client's head. And then get creative with all of these other colors. Like, you can take two different blondes just to change the shade of the blonde. Let's say you have an interesting tone, it's kind of in the middle of an ash and a warm tone. So you just take the two together, two light pieces already in their own color element, and then put them together. So as you heat it up, it's not huge, it's just subtle, a subtle change. So let's stop for a minute, pull that mannequin head in and put a few on the head. So as you know, we mixed a few of these pieces together. I'm going to take a brown, lighter brown, dark blonde, whatever you want to call it, piece, and I'm not going to show you how we always put them in. We're going to do something a little bit different. We were creative with putting our colors together and mixing them. Let's be a little creative in how we put them in also. We're calling this an under-under technique. We're taking the bond and putting it on top instead of underneath. I know some of you guys put it on top all of the time, and that's fine because our tool heats up from the top and the bottom. But the tools used to heat up from only the bottom, and that's why we originally started at the bottom and continue to do it that way. But when you want to overpower a particular color, you're going to want to put it over the top. So what's happening here is I put this piece with the darker color on top. I'm going to heat this bond up, and it's going to spread from side to side. And I'll pop the tool off as usual, fold it under here, fold it under on the other side, and then what I'll do is heat it up one more time. And what this does is puts a more concentration of the color on top, folding it under each time, and I have a darker looking highlighted piece. I'll take the same piece and I'm going to do it the other way this time with a lighter piece on top, just to show how that can be a little bit different just in your placement. So one thing you know you always want to do is take a square section about the size of the keratin bond you're working with. So think about this, if you're putting a half bond in or a fourth or a third, you're going to use a smaller section here to support the weight correctly. So we're going to put this one with the light side facing up, and we're still going to put it right on top, heat this bond up and spread it from side to side. The reason why we call it the under technique is normally we're starting underneath and we're folding up the first time. This time we put it on top and folding it under each time. We'll heat it a second time, pop that tool open quickly, fold it under, and we do have a little bit of concentration of both colors in here, but if you'll notice what's happening is on this one it's much darker because the blonde was underneath and covered. It was kind of completely covered up with the dark hair, whereas this one, the blonde was over the top and the brown is the one peeking through. So depending on the color blend you want to get there would determine what color goes on top. And then an even more important reason to use the under technique is when you're using more vivid colors. Let's put a red piece in for fun and then maybe a blue. So what I'll do here is get a nice section that'll hold everything I'm doing here, and we put a red and a yellow piece together. And I want to mostly have that yellow showing, and that red might just pop through just a tiny bit. So what I'll do is I'll put it on top again. So this is the reason. If I had put that yellow piece underneath and heated it up and folded it up and over, the major concentration of yellow would be underneath. You see a little yellow on top. Maybe that's what you're going for. But if you're going to put some red, blue, green, yellow, blonde highlights around the face really close to the part, go up very high, you're going to want to put that on top so that you see mostly the color that you're putting in. So let's put this yellow piece in really quick. It does have a tiny bit of concentration of red in there just to kind of pop through a little for whatever creative reason you decide. We fold it under here, under over here, and then I always heat a second time. As in the technique video, pop that tool open, fold it under, and it is mostly yellow with just a little bit of red showing through. I think that's really cool. And obviously, you can do that with the blue or the green and have them right on top or underneath where they're barely showing. So don't let that be all you do in your creativity. There are so many colors you can put together. I just wanted to show you a few. Thanks for watching.